Okay, so for the second task of this week, I'm just going to use a video because it seems a little bit easier to talk about it that way. So the first question is, what patterns do you see in the data? So I noticed that this standard, most of them have an adequate knowledge of it. There's just a few like these two, and maybe some of the fives that would need a little bit more special attention. Um, but I guess that's a different question. So just what I'm noticing is that these ones, most of them scored an average number. This one, we have a couple or a few 2 out of 3s, couple ones, and a couple zeros. So I think this would be actually, that's another question again. This one I see the highest performing because majority of them just missed one. A few of them just or got 100% on it, and then one of them needed a little extra help. This one would probably need the most work because there's a lot more differences amongst the students. So I'd probably want to cover that more whole class discussion, as well as this one because nobody scored over a 50% in it. The second question is, how would these patterns inform your instruction? So this one, I'd probably want to pull these two students, and this is part of the question that asks what I would utilize for small group instruction. So I probably want to pull these two for small group and kind of just focus more, as well as doing like a whole class um, lesson, but they would just need a little more focused attention. This one, I would also cover it full class, but I mean, we have a lot more who struggled with it. So I think I'd want a whole for all of them, I'd probably do a whole lesson about it, besides maybe this one because it was the strongest. I might just go over this with just kind of a refresher and gauge where the students are, do an exit ticket or something to see if that improved their scores, just a recap of it. And then this one, and this one we're needing more work on. So that would probably be a few um, days, or I don't know. I'm assuming that this would be a whole unit since there's so many standards in it. So I would spend the most amount of time on this. I would kind of gauge as we go and do some informal assessment to see how students are responding to lessons. And for the students that aren't responding very well, maybe pull them into the small group instruction. Um, what standards would you teach? So I did that one. Okay, so for this one, I believe that's this one. Um, I would spend a long time. We kind of covered that already. Just because I see lower numbers, um, less than 50%, and I'd want to spend more time going over that and kind of just gauging how they're developing with lessons. Um, and I think I already covered that too. So depending on the informal assessments and kind of just seeing where students are, whether that just being like a discussion, walking around talking to students, seeing how they're doing, um, observing them in group work to see if they're following along well, if they're kind of falling behind. That's how I would kind of understand if I'd like to group them. Other groupings that might be useful would be maybe pairing them with someone who does understand it and helping them kind of think through their thought processes. And then these ones are these two. So this one is kind of tricky to understand how well they did since it's just out of 3. Because normally a 2 out of 3 is great because you only missed one, but I'd like to really dive a little bit deeper and just see truly how well they might know it. And kind of just again do that informal assessment to judge that. So yeah.